I'm Rev Jay Stuart Glover. Welcome to Faith Talk. Today's episode is entitled Reflecting on God's Faithfulness. Life often presents us with an abundance of challenges that have the potential to push us away from God toward despair, anxiety, and fear. Whether it's the pressures of academic and employment demands, the unpredictability of relationships, or the weight of personal struggles, we all encounter moments of spiritual and physical weariness. Even King David, despite his close relationship with God, faced countless adversities, whether defending his flock as a young shepherd or navigating the perils of leadership, betrayal, and war as a king, or even when his own son was trying to kill him. It was in these moments that David consistently turned to God, finding refuge, comfort, and strength. The 23rd Psalm is one of the most well-known scriptures in the Bible, known for its comforting imagery and profound message of God's care. What I love most about this psalm is how David's perception of God shines through, even in the face of adversity. David's image of God is one of a loving shepherd, a caretaker who provides, protects, and leads. As David opens the psalm with these words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters, and he refreshes my soul." This imagery isn't just poetic. It's deeply personal. David, a shepherd himself, knew firsthand the role of shepherding, caring for sheep, guiding them to safety, ensuring they had what they needed. David saw God as his shepherd, the one who provided for him even when life didn't seem prestigious. His occupation wasn't prestigious or easy. Despite his humble beginnings and the trials that he faced, David felt complete in God's care. His dependence on God was absolute. And that's what we mean by spiritual poverty. It means that we are completely dependent upon God. David also acknowledges God as one who leads him in his decision-making process. He wrote, "He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake." So it is right here in this psalm that David reminds us that God's guidance is available to us, not just for our own benefit, but for the sake of his glory. The question that arises for us today is whether or not we are willing to listen to this guidance from on high. In our fast-paced, noisy world, can we quiet ourselves long enough to hear God's voice? Or do we allow distractions to drown out his guidance? Do we close our hearts, close our minds, close our ears to the hearing of his voice? David's trust in God's leading calls us to be intentional about seeking, hearing, and following him. I must add right here that prayer is a two-way dialogue. We get to talk not only to God, with God. We get to hear from God, but often we enter into this sacred space with the goal of doing a lot of talking and not much hearing. We need to quiet ourselves and allow our hearts and minds to receive the word of the Lord. And then as the psalm moves on, we find comfort in the valleys. For me, one of the most powerful parts of the psalm comes in verse 4, where it says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me." So life isn't always about green pastures and still waters. There are valleys, dark, challenging times that we all must face and endure. But even in those moments, as we look at the life of David, we find that David finds comfort, not because the danger isn't real, but because God's presence is very real. And David, he compares God's protection to that of a shepherd's rod and staff. The staff with its hook was used to pull sheep out of danger, to guide them. The young ones who drift off were able to be pulled back into the flock. The ones who fell into a ditch may be able to be pulled out of the ditch. And the rod certainly defends, protects the sheep against predators. God, in his wisdom and love, is both our rescuer and defender. He's present in every trial that we face along our life journey. God is our shepherd. Then we find God's pursuit of us. In the closing of this psalm, David concludes with a declaration of God's goodness. He says, "Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." David isn't simply saying that God's love follows behind him like a shadow. The Hebrew word here suggests that God's goodness and mercy actively pursue us. In the Hebrew, it's more of an aggressive term than a passive term. Even when we drift away or struggle, God's love is relentless, and it doesn't just follow after us, it chases after us. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I've distanced myself, when I've tried to distance myself from God. Yet, it was in those moments that his mercy was not passive. His goodness was not passive. It sought me out and brought me back. So Psalm 23 offers us a vivid picture of God's unwavering faithfulness. It reminds us that whether we are in moments of peace or walking through life's darkest valleys, God is always present, offering us protection, guidance, and love. David's psalm ultimately reflects his deep trust in God and his perception of God as a shepherd, a protector, and a provider. So I want to leave you with a challenge this week. We read about David's perception of God, his image of God, that he portrays very colorfully in this psalm. The question for us this week, the challenge is, how do you perceive God? What is your image of God Is he a loving shepherd guiding your steps? Or do you see him as a distant, punitive, and harsh God, waiting to punish you for your shortcomings? I encourage you to take some time to reflect on your image of God. And if you feel led, I would encourage you to write your own song that paints a picture of God's activity in your life and is a reflection of your image of God. So write your own song, a personal reflection on who God is to you and who you are in response to God's love. I'm Rev Jay Stuart Glover. Thank you for joining me and our global listening audience on Faith Talk. These episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, YouTube, and many other podcast platforms. I invite you to visit the website at www.revjstuartglover.com and share with your friends and family. Let us go forth as peacemakers, bringing God's light into the shadows of our world. So until the next time, may God bless you, keep you, and guide you, protect you in all that you do. Amen.